And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Kim Davis. Today is Tuesday, um, October the 19th. And man, can you believe it? We are almost through October. Listen, it has been a busy, busy time. For those of you who are watching the replay, um, I'm changing the time on Tuesdays to 10. At least I did for today because I have some other news I need to get to. And so I needed to be done with the show earlier. So if you're watching the replay, still let me hear from you. Put your comments and your uh, questions and comments in the chats. And remember, if there's something you'd like for me to talk about, you'd like for me to get to on Chalk Talk, just however you're watching the show, reach out to me there and let me hear from you. All right. So there is so much to get to in the world of sports and in the world in general. Before I even get to all of these big sports news, big sports stories, what I want to say is obviously to send condolences to the family and friends of Colin Powell, who we learned on yesterday, passed away because of complications um, from COVID. And I think it's important that when you talk about Colin Powell and him passing from COVID, the fact that he was fully vaccinated, it is also important to talk about the fact that he was not just that he was 84, but that he was immunocompromised. He had a form of cancer, and so all of those things go into effect. And so I just don't like to give any more fodder for people who say, see, the vaccine doesn't work. You know, the vaccine does work. And unfortunately, he was apparently exposed to it. And because of all that he had going on, was not able to overcome it. So condolences to him and his family. For his family, that's got to be a tough loss. We all know. I know when you lose someone that you love and is close to you, it's just really difficult. It doesn't matter how old they are or whether or not they've been sick, and none of that matters. Just the person that you love is no longer here in this earthly space with you. And I saw a lot of conversations yesterday where people talked about his record and what they thought of him. And I it was complicated for some. It was not complicated for me. I mean, whatever. I don't believe he knew about the that there were really no weapons of mass destruction when the U.S. went to war with Iraq. I think he was misled. That's what I believe. I don't know. But at any rate, I think that there's a lot about Colin Powell that shows that's worthy of saying, you tip your hat to the man, and how he served, was a statesman and served with honor. So I didn't want the show to get going with all the other stuff that we'll talk about without at least first paying homage, if you will, to Colin Powell and his work and his legacy. In the world of sports, there is a lot happening. We are in the middle of the ALCS. Whew, I tell you what, we'll talk about that. I have a guest that's going to join me. We're going to talk about the Houston Astros and the Boston Red Sox in that series, and the fact that the Houston Astros starting pitching has been just really bad. You know, when you look at the numbers of what's happening with the starting pitching, the fact that Dusty Baker and Strami, the pitching coach, have been able to manage and get anything with this bullpen and anything happening, I just goes to show, unlike what a lot of people think that Dusty Baker does know what the hell he's doing. But you got to get more than two innings out of your pitchers, and you can't have your starting pitchers giving up grand slam home runs in the first and second inning. Game two was just crazy. I'm sitting in Minute Maid Park, and it's game two, and there's a grand slam in the first inning. You're like, oh my goodness. So then you have to go and you have to get you got to switch pitchers, right? You got to change. You got to make a change, and then there's another grand slam given up. It's just it's a lot. It was a lot to manage, a lot to deal with, and so they're pretty. Their pitching, starting pitching has been slim. Today, Zach Greinke will take the mound. Who knows what you'll get if they could? Man, they could somehow get 5 innings out of him. That would give this pitching staff a little bit of a break, the bullpen a chance to catch his breath so that they could try to regroup. They need a win today. You don't want to go down 3-1 the way you've been losing. The bats haven't been great. But when you say the bats haven't been great, they scored 3 runs. That's not great, but you can't afford to put your team in an 8 or 9-0 hole and expect them to climb out of that on more than one occasion. That's just not how you win championships. So we will see. I'm not giving up yet on these Houston Astros. I think that today's big though. We'll see what they do today. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk some baseball when AJ joins us, and we're also going to talk about these Houston Texans. They're 1-5. Not terribly surprising that they're 1-5. It's the way that they've gotten there and the way they've looked that has been a little more disappointing. And they're making some personnel moves that I think they're questionable to me. And I want to talk about all of that. Houston Rockets, the regular NBA season tips off tonight. The Rockets start their season tomorrow night in Minnesota. Their first home game is Friday night against OKC, I believe, in the Toyota Center. And the Houston Texans travel to Arizona to play the Cardinals. I laugh because, oh my gosh, the line on that game, the over or under could be like 50. Anyway, so much to get to. Thank you for being a part of the show. As always, put your questions and comments in the chats. We'll get to them as we can. Hey, good morning, Carol Justice. Welcome. It's always good to have you joining us for the show. Thank you for being a part of Chalk Talk. So I do want to bring in my guest now, my friend and colleague. I'm always contacting him like, hey, AJ, how do I do this? Or how do I do that? So thank you for, putting up with me and for always offering to help. I appreciate you for that. Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, and good morning. What are you talking about? I'm always bothering you. You're the one.
No, I'm like, hey, this with this program, and what do you think? But listen, we bother each other, so I guess it
Yeah,
all works
yeah,
out.
yep.
So, where do we start? Let's start with let's start with baseball. Why
Okay,
not? Okay,
all right.
so the Houston Astros, their starting pitching has put them in some huge holes, like unlike I've ever seen in postseason. And that's not just that I haven't seen, that hasn't been seen, right? Grand slams. They've had two grand slams in game two to go down 8-0. They
Right.
had a grand slam in game three. I mean, when has a team hit three grand slams? But
Never, never.
never. It's never happened before.
Yep.
The starting pitching has been really, really awful. And now some people are saying that maybe the fact that the pitching has been so bad, it means that the Crane will not sign Carlos Correa because you got to go spend more money on pitching. I don't want to think that far ahead. I want to think about how can they turn this thing around? Can they?
Well, yeah, they can, and you just said what they need to do. They need to get competent starting pitching. They need to get starting pitching that doesn't put them in a 5-0 hole, 6-0 hole, 8-0 hole before the bats get started. So Dusty said it best heading into the playoffs. Nobody's going to
Yeah.
send us a sympathy card. Nobody's going to tell us to get well soon. We got to go out and pitch and play, and that's what they need to do. It's that simple.
It's that simple. So Zach Greinke, man, just think about it. 2 years ago, he was a guy that was like, wow, let's go out and spend all this money on Zach
Yep.
Greinke. Now, clearly,
Yep.
we know his money is available for Carlos. Okay,
Right.
um, so, but I do hope that whatever we're seeing with the starting pitching doesn't mean that Crane will abandon any real attempts to re-sign Carlos Correa. I think you just got to find a way to pay him and bring him back.
Well, I think you said it best. Real attempt.
Yeah,
Carlos is going to be in the 300 plus million range.
yeah,
The closest the Astros has been about half that. So he's got to make a real attempt because Carlos is going to get 300 plus million from somewhere, whether it
yeah,
be in New York, whether it be in LA, whether it be in a team at a team that has a bigger budget. So it's that simple. Carlos Correa is going to cost 300 plus million. Jim Crane, are you going to pay that money? If not, he's gone.
So here's the thing. One of the things we heard Carlos say recently is that Carlos realizes that 300 million in New York or California is not the same as 300 million here. He factors into the fact that there's the state income taxes. So maybe that I'm like, that bodes well for the Astros, right? Because the $300 million isn't the same everywhere. I think that's I think that way. I mean, I think about it, and so you got to come close. I think you got
Yeah,
to make it.
yeah,
You got to bring him to where, okay, so you're not paying that extra 30% in taxes.
right,
You know,
right,
so then what's that number? Are you willing to get to what that number is? I think even more than that though, AJ, Carlos has said he wants a long-term deal. That
right,
really is what matters to him. He wants 10 years.
right, right. And again, when you see the big deals that have been signed, that's what they've been getting. They've been
Yeah.
getting the long term, because that's commitment. That's, I believe in you. That's, I know that you can get this done. However they work out the money on the back end is one thing, but that long term, those numbers on the year side, matter to Carlos Correa, and they should.
And they should. I also think this might be the best infield in baseball. Definitely in the American League. I'd hate to see them break it up, right? You got, Bregman, you paid him, he's going to be around. You took care of Altuve a couple of years ago, he's going to be around. They took shorter deals, right? Yuli's got a little bit of time with you. I just think that you find a way to sign Los because he just means so much to this team, and I hope they can get it done. Um, but let's get back to this series.
Okay.
So Greinke is going to be playing tonight, starting. 2 years ago, he was like an ace.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
now we're hoping like, can you get 5 innings? Maybe even four, at least three, because they haven't gotten three from a starting pitcher since game one.
Right.
I maybe Greinke has some signs of uh maybe Greinke has some signs of the Greinke we knew from 2 years ago. I don't know.
I believe it's still in him, but this is where Dusty has got to do his best job managing that he's done in a while. And don't get it twisted. I think Dusty is a Hall of Fame manager.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
Dusty can't do things the way the analytics say that they need to be done. If Dusty gets three solid out of Greinke and
Right.
gets him out before he implodes, that's good managing. You don't want to put yourself in a hole, and you've got to find a way to get game four so you don't go down 3-1. And that's on Dusty, that's on Greinke, that's on the bats, that's on everybody. That's definitely on that bullpen. When they come in, they
Yeah,
got to get outs. They didn't do that last night. Nobody stopped the bleeding until it was too late.
it was too late. Yeah, I agree. I think you're right. And one of the things about Dusty is he does rely on analytics, but then he also relies on this is baseball and I know what I see. Right.
Right,
He
right.
is also that guy. I don't know if you're joking, Bobby Scott. Bobby said Carlos is cheating. Yeah, I said it. I don't know. I guess that's a joke because you did the smiley faces. But anyway, I just yeah. Anyway, good morning, Charles. Welcome, and good morning to you, Bobby, as well. So I hope that they can. Tonight's big. They just can't afford to go down 3-1. I know that they're confident. I know that they've overcome a lot. Okay, good. He said he's joking. Um, I mean, no one's saying that the Red Sox are cheating because they hitting the cover off the ball. You're just saying the pitching's bad. You know what I mean? We're saying
Right,
the starting pitching is bad. I don't know if they're
right.
tipping pitches. Are they just pitching poorly? I don't know, but it hasn't been a good look. They got to get game four tonight, so that they can bring it back to Minute Maid Park and have a chance to do a little something with the crowd. So I'm hoping that
Well,
they
well,
can
well,
do
Kim,
that.
if I'm not mistaken, these next two are in Boston, so they've got to get this game tonight, because
Right.
if not,
It's
Boston
over.
can wrap it up at home. And let me
Right.
tell you something, they ain't coming back to Houston. They're not even gonna
Yeah.
book that trip. They're not even,
Right.
just out of a sign of a prophetic act. They're not gonna book that
Right.
trip.
No, that's what I'm saying. They got to win tonight so they can bring it back to Minute Maid Park. Because
Right?
if they win
Understood.
tonight,
Absolutely. It's got to
then
come back.
it's got to
Yeah.
come back. So
Yeah.
hopefully
Yeah.
that'll happen.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what's happening in the world of baseball. Are you surprised that the Braves jumped out to a 2-0 lead over the Dodgers?
I got to be honest with you. I am surprised about that. I knew
Yeah.
that the Braves got hot at the end, and they've been solid all year long. But there's just something about the Dodgers. I grew up in Cincinnati, so Dodgers, Braves, Reds, Cardinals a little bit. So, but the Dodgers were always that team to beat. Tommy Lasorda had those Dodgers to the point where
Yeah.
you wanted to like them, but you just weren't allowed to. So I think I still had some of that in my spirit. And sure enough, the Braves like, we ain't playing. We trying to do what we have not been able to do. As good as the Braves have been, how many championships do they have? This is
Right.
a lot for them, and I think they finally put a team together that can break through. and do what Washington did, do what what the Dodgers have done, do what the Astros have done. Why not them? And they're showing that they're focused on it. They're not making any big noise. They're not pointing at their watch or their wrist. They're just winning games.
Well, and here's the thing. I think when we're giving credit, we also do have to give the Red Sox credit because of how they ended the season. No one picked them to, they won the wild card game.
Right.
They beat those pesky Yankees. Then they beat Tampa Bay, the team
Tampa
everyone
Bay
thought
was the
would
team
win.
to beat. Tampa
right?
Bay was
That was
the
a
team
team
to beat, and they beat them.
And they beat Tampa Bay, and now they have been on a hitting streak really since that Tampa Bay series, and now we just hope that the Astros can turn things around. I know a lot of people are like, man, I was hoping the Astros, if they could get to the World Series, would face the Dodgers. I am not. I think the Dodgers pitching is a little deeper. They can go a little deeper than we can, and I really, as much as you want to shut them up, I don't want us to face the Astros to face the Dodgers if they can get past the Red Sox. But whoever you got to play, you got to play. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk a little football. So the Houston Texans are 1-5. I think I picked them to win maybe 4 games this season. I thought they were about that mark. So they look good in a couple games. I think people got a little overly excited about what they saw from Davis Mills in the game against the Patriots. A game that quite frankly, this Texans team should have won that game.
Should have won that game, right?
And they looked really awful this weekend. They looked worse this weekend against the Colts to me than they looked against the Bills.
Yeah, because it was the Bills versus the Colts.
It was the Bills.
You didn't expect them to lay an egg like they did against the Colts.
Yeah, they looked really bad. A lot of penalties, a lot of mistakes and whatnot. So before we even get into all of who they are as a football team, so then yesterday we were over. We meet with Culley, then the players for Monday, and then of course Monday afternoon, Nick Caserio gets busy, and he waves Whitney Merciless, and so I had some conversations with people on Twitter, and I'm not saying whether or not Whitney Merciless, his time should be up as a Texan. I feel like they instead of restructuring his contract to give him guaranteed money, and where he's a cap hit for this year and next, and about the $8 million mark. Why don't you waive him in?
Right.
Because Nick Caserio is supposed to be boy genius.
Right.
David Culley is an idiot. This is from all accounts. Now I'm not a huge Culley fan, but I asked yesterday to one of our colleagues. I said, "So help me understand this." So David Culley doesn't know what he's doing. Okay, I for one don't think David Culley is making the decisions. I think that Nick Caserio is in the booth in his little coaching uniform, and he's calling downstairs, and he is making the final decisions about plays. That's what I think. I'm not in the booth. I don't know. I just believe, why else are you in there, right? As a general manager.
Right. Let facts matter.
Right.
David Culley didn't hire one single coach or assistant.
I think he hired one.
Okay, so one.
Yeah, right.
And it wasn't the offensive coordinator, wasn't the defensive coordinator.
Right.
It certainly wasn't. He wasn't in on the GM hire, and he didn't bring in the Pope of the Texans, and we know who that is.
Right.
So this is Nick Caserio. This is Jack Easterby. This is that crew.
Right.
And supposedly Nick learned all that. He learned the capology. He learned player movement, player contracts, all of that. And that is his team in that room. The folks that we don't know their titles. Those are all Jack Nick people. So why are we blaming David Culley for that?
Right. I think it's important to know. And so I had a conversation with someone yesterday. I said, you realize, well, why would he take this job? So that's where I have to back off.
Yeah.
I can't blame him for that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're in the twilight years of your career.
Right.
You get a shot to be a head coach when there was no other conversation about you being a head coach.
Right.
Make a little more money for my pension. Whoever was in that spot was going to have to operate that way. Let's be really clear about that. Or they would not have been hired.
Correct. Yep, you're absolutely right. And Kim, I love the way you said that. That's where I had to back up because a lot of folks just don't get it.
Yeah.
A lot of folks just don't get. I've said a number of times. I wish more people that look like us would be more selective in the jobs that they take, not the ones that they're offered, but the ones that they take. But then it hit me, Mr. High Horse, shut up, because there are
Right.
not many jobs that are getting offered to them. They're getting interviewed because they have to, but for them to get a job offer, if they say no to that, might not get another one.
Right. And, we don't really always get the great jobs, right?
Well, if the job is open, it's not open because the last coach and the team was so good that they just could. We can't keep you on. You too good. Our team is too good. We're gonna fire you. We're gonna go find somebody else, and we're gonna start over. It's
Right.
usually the worst job in the league, and like you said, I can't be mad at Culley for taking that job because there were a whole lot of parameters with this job than any of the other jobs that were out there. And oh yeah, by the way, this ended up being the last job that, one of the last jobs that got
Yeah.
filled.
First one's open, last one's filled,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
was open 5 weeks into last season. So I said to this particular person yesterday, I said, so the thought is David Culley doesn't know what he's doing. You're not going to get me arguing that he's some kind of second coming of Vince Lombardi. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But then you guys in the next breath say that Nick Casario is the best. I've heard people say he's a GM of the decade. And I just want somebody to help me understand why. So this particular reporter said to me, well, it's because of the Patriots. I said, what does that mean? Because the Patriots' success, I think you can credit the person who's in Tampa now with why the Patriots won 6 Super Bowls.
That's
And his
what we're
name is
seeing.
Tom Brady.
It's coming to fruition. We're seeing that.
Right. It's not Nick Casario. It wasn't what Bill O'Brien, did with Tom Brady. None of that is the case. So now you're saying, Nick, okay, so because you do a lot of busy work, to me, doesn't make it good work. I said,
Right.
I just think at the very least, it's way too soon to crown
Yeah.
him boy genius.
Yeah.
Then later in the yesterday, this very same day, we hear that he's released Whitney Merciless. So I say, well, that doesn't make a bit of sense to me. It doesn't make any business sense. It doesn't make any financial sense because you restructured Merciless' deal so that you owe him $11 million this year guaranteed. He's an $8 million hit on the cap, and I think next year another $7 million hit on the cap. So by you releasing him, what's the point? Because he's a culture guy for sure,
Absolutely.
right? He
Absolutely.
absolutely is a culture guy. So
Absolutely.
you're big on that. Why would you release him? You
Yeah.
couldn't find anybody that you could even split a salary with. That happens all the time and get something out of it.
Yeah. And I believe that's what he's hoping
Yeah.
for at this point because reportedly Kansas City is very interested. There's another team that's interested, and for it to work for them, and they not have to go through the free agency, being released, and another team has rights to him first. They might be able to work out a late deal, but I'm not trying to save Nick Casario. Hear me when I say
So
this
here's
wasn't
here's the thing. If I'm Whitney, and I'm not,
right.
I don't sign with anybody because you know why? You lose money.
Right.
You lose money if
Absolutely.
you don't wait till about week 13
Yeah.
and then sign for the minimum,
Yeah.
right? The Texans got to pay you all that
All
money.
that money. Right.
And then you can say, okay, I'm going to sign with one of the top teams in the league that's got a shot at the Super Bowl. What
Right.
else? Why else would he? Don't save him a penny. That
Right.
was not a smart business move for the Texans. And everybody keeps saying, oh, yeah, well, no, it wasn't. Well, we don't just, he's not doing well. And he ain't why your team is 1-5.
Not at all.
I'm not saying that he's the future, but
Not at all.
nobody on this team is the
Yeah.
future. So yesterday, I asked David Culley a question, and I'm going to let you hear what he said because they talked about like with Charles and Menahue, and not playing him because they're letting some of the let's try some other guys out, right? Let's get other people a chance to play. So I asked him about Scottie Phillips. I said, well, since there's the concept of letting other guys play, any chance Scottie Phillips is activated? And here's what Culley said yesterday.
Possibility. There's always a possibility. When we sit and look at it, I do feel like that the guys that have been playing for us at running back have been consistent. Up into this game here, We hadn't laid the ball on the ground at all at the running back position. We had a couple this past game. But obviously, Scotty's there waiting, and if we get in a situation where we feel like we need to make a move, we feel confident in making that move if it gets to that point.
It makes no sense, right? So the thing is, well, let Witt go because then you can have some younger guys play. I just think it it doesn't make Nick Casario look like boy genius anymore. To me, he never did because I'm waiting to see what happens. But that's not a great business move. You cost your team $11 million, and if you think, well, somebody else will sign him, then why not do a deal with him? If you get anything for him, it's better than cutting him, being on the hook for 11 million and
Right.
getting nothing.
Right. Well, let's just be clear. There's some perceptions that we will never change on the Patriot way, and
Right.
particularly Nick Casario, because he made all those moves in the offseason. And Kim, I could take all the clutter out of your house and bring it over to my house and give you all the clutter from my house and bring it to your, and our houses will still be cluttered. It doesn't
It's still
mean
cluttered.
right. We weren't smart. We were busy. We were busy moving clutter, but it doesn't mean that our places are better because of the clutter we moved. So, again, I thought that the Texans would battle Detroit as the two worst teams in the NFL this year. Not because I didn't think Culley couldn't coach. It's just, again, out of all those players they moved, no one looked like they were going to be a difference maker. Nobody looked like they were going to equate. At the end of the day, the Texans were 4-12, with Deshaun having one of the best years that a quarterback had on a 4-12 team ever. So now, did Tyrod Taylor equate to 5? Did the Mark Ingram and Phillip Lindsay and other players did any of them add an additional win to that 4? Because that's the baseline for me. Right. And none of that added to 6, 7, 8. Obviously, you got some things out of your control. Teams are not the same as they were last year, what have you. I didn't expect a big deal out of this team, and unfortunately, I'm not being disappointed. One more thing. You were out at training camp. Did you see anything out of Davis Mills that let you know he had caught up to the speed of the game and was ready? When he is in a very structured offense, he does well. He does okay. Right. But when they open up the playbook and they, try to flow with the flow of the game, it gets real iffy. So all I'm saying is I'm not downing Davis Mills. I didn't expect him to say, oh, no, I don't want to start. Let somebody else start. He did what he's supposed to do. Same thing we talked about with Culley. He did what he's supposed to do. Doesn't mean he was ready. Doesn't mean he was going to be consistently productive, and he hasn't been. And it's cost the whole team. The defense has been out there too much. They've been out there in tough situations. It just affects everything when you don't have consistent play at the quarterback to move the ball down the field.
And here's the other thing. You're right about Davis Mills. There's a reason he was a third-round pick. All right? He was a third-round pick because you don't really draft quarterbacks from third round expecting they're going to come in and lead your team.
Right.
And remember, he had a very small sample size of work. I think now he's only gotten to he's ever started 12 games since high school.
Right.
So I'm not saying he doesn't have any talent. I'm saying, is he the future? I don't know. There's nothing that I've seen that tells me that yet. And I've heard some people advocating for when Tyrod Taylor comes back, you should just keep Davis Mills in and see what you have. And let me say this, AJ, for anybody who's listening, like the preacher say, under the sound of my voice. Don't buy into the idea that let's finish at the bottom and get a better draft pick.
Right.
It doesn't work in football, people.
It doesn't.
It's never worked. If you know a situation where a team is tanked and it's worked, hit me up. Let me know. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Now, it may work in basketball because one player can change a team.
That's right.
It doesn't work in football.
Yep.
And so that's a bad recipe. You're teaching a culture of losing, since we're going to talk about culture, and it takes time to build. You're talking about a whole lot more people involved. You're talking about 22 people.
Yep.
On either side of the ball. It just doesn't work.
Jacksonville tanked for Trevor, and how's that working out for them? The Jets have been tanking for how long? How's that working out for them? So,
well, they're not really tanking on purpose, though. They're just not any good.
They're just not good. Yeah.
They just can't play. Right?
Yeah. No, there's a difference between reality and I don't even know what to call it. It's not fandom. I don't want to insult our colleagues. It's not fandom, but you got to be rooted in reality. If
Right.
Davis Mills didn't have on the little red jersey and the "Don't hit me" signs at training camp, he would have gotten sacked a lot at training camp because it
Right.
was taking him a while to process. And just because he completed the pass didn't mean he was going to complete the pass in a regular season game. We're seeing that now. And, again, I don't think Tim Kelly is calling, exceptionally bad. In fact, I think he's having his best season of his young career. Pep
Right.
Hamilton is legit when it
Yeah.
comes to getting quarterbacks ready to play. Tony Dungy, Hall of Fame coach, gave a lot of praise to Pep Hamilton for, his Hall of Fame career. So all I'm saying is you got to be patient with guys like Davis Mills and David Culley, but you also need players, and that's Nick Caserio's job. And you don't get players by wasting money, letting guys go and restructuring deals and that kind of stuff. It all works together.
Because remember, this isn't the first. We can look at what he did with Shaq Lawson. He
Right.
restructured that deal and
Right.
gave up some guaranteed money that you didn't have
Right.
to do. Andre Roberts, they also released yesterday. No problem with that. He has not performed, but that was a Nick Caserio. That deal was more of a Nick Caserio
It
deal than a
was.
Bill O'Brien deal. So here's the other thing. Okay, so Nick Caserio, they said, well, he had to come in and clean up Bill O'Brien's mess. Let's call it Bill O'Brien and Jack Easterby's mess, because Jack should get some blame for that, but Cal apparently doesn't see it that way. It's his team. Go figure. But what did you really expect from this group of guys, right? I like Pharaoh Brown a lot. He's never, made the active roster in all these years. A lot of these guys haven't, sometimes you don't get a shot and you're a little further in your career just because you haven't gotten the right opportunity. That happens. But not a whole team of people does that happen to.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So you've got to have something to work with.
Yep.
You just do.
Yep. Yeah. Again, not ever wanting to minimize an NFL player's talent or what have you.
Exactly.
He has definitely added a collection of great guys. He's added a collection of guys that are playing hard. He's got a collection of guys that want to. I see a lot of want to down there.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they're going to be better than Kansas City. It doesn't mean that they're going to be better than Baltimore. It doesn't mean that they're going to be better than Tampa Bay. It doesn't mean that they're going to be, and I'm going to say this, and it's probably going to hurt some Texans feel. It doesn't mean that they're going to be better than the Cowboys. The Cowboys have legit players and a system that is conducive to their skill set, and they got the right quarterback in there. As we saw, there are people that were thinking that Andy Dalton was going to be a cheaper version of Dak Prescott. Andy Dalton and Dak Prescott only go in the same sentence when you're asking who's in the quarterback room. They're not in the same league. So, we're seeing the difference between that scenario and this scenario. And I got to say it one more time. The Patriot way is not the answer, not unless you got TB12, and you don't.
Right, because that's the Patriots way, right? Ask Bill Belichick. Who somebody tweeted during the game, the Cowboys game and the Patriots game. He says, "Why is Belichick dressing up in a Texans outfit every week? He does look like he's wearing Texans gear." But anyway, maybe he's just paying homage to the team that I don't know, that's trying its best to be who he is. I've never seen anything like it. Have you?
No, I have never. And every time, Kim, what's Danny Amendola done for this team? What's Rex Burkhead done for this team? Every time they reach out and get these guys and bring them over, it's like, why? Like, if there's anything that you should not be doing right now, it's this. Been there, done that, been there, done that, been there, done that, and it still hadn't worked.
It still has not worked. So I don't know what you could expect from this Texans team moving forward. Not a whole lot. They are going into Arizona this weekend to play one of the best teams in football. DeAndre Hopkins may have 150 yards and 4 touchdowns. J.J. Watt might even score. And it's going to be a rough day for them in Arizona this weekend.
Yeah, it is. It is. And, and it should be. I won't be surprised if JJ and DeAndre don't hit the Texans front office with the with the Black Panther. Hey, Auntie. I mean, like y'all thought y'all got rid of us. You thought we were the problem. Hey, Auntie.
Right. So I know a lot of Cowboys fans also tune in, and I just want to say that I'm always pulling for the Cowboys, right? They overcame Mike McCarthy. He's a problem.
Yeah.
He's their biggest problem.
Man, right now.
Right
If we're
now,
just
he's
being
their biggest
being
problem.
truthful. Yep.
Yeah.
In spite of Mike McCarthy, they've got the talent to win.
Yeah.
And every time they locked that game up Sunday, he gave it back to him.
He gave it back to him.
And they finally
he was
put
like,
something.
No,
Yeah.
y'all take it.
They finally put something shiny on the sidelines. They gave him a sucker. Oh, okay, thank you. And then they went out there and won it. In the lunch break power rankings this week, I'll release it today. I'm gonna have the Dallas Cowboys as the number 3 team in the rankings. I've got Arizona number 1, got the Rams number 2, got the Cowboys number 3. The reason why I've got the Cowboys number 3, if you look at their body of work from week 1, they lost to Tampa Bay in a close game in week number 1. They have not lost since then. As we looked at Tampa Bay, only the Patriots have played them closer. But watch this. That was a personal game. That game is one of those games where you throw out all the records. Doesn't matter who's out there. This is personal. You're going to knock me out or I'm going to knock you out. So when you look at the body of work, the Cowboys have been consistent, one of the most consistent teams in the league, not named the Arizona Cardinals, not named the Los Angeles Rams. I got Cowboys at number 3, and I'm not moving. Texan fans, oh God, here we go. I'm not a homer. I'm not a Cowboy fan. I'm not one of them boys. I just know what I see, and I'm going to give credit to what I see, different from some of the folks at the major networks.
So who are your 1 and 2 again?
Number 1, Arizona. Number 2, Rams.
Okay. And remember, if we go back to that Thursday night game with Tampa and Dallas, in Tampa, Dallas was without the starting, was it the left tackle?
Right.
They without one of their starting offensive linemen. Makes a difference, people.
It does.
Even this Texans team was without 3 starting linemen this past weekend. I think that what's the guy that we got, Laramie Tunsil? He's out. He had some kind of hand surgery. Yeah, he's probably done. He's probably done as a Texan, right?
Yeah.
They moved him. They move him. The only guys, and I'm going to say this before we jump to the Rockets, before I let you go, the only guys on this team that have like real deals that got them, I guess, as a result of Caserio, the kicker, who is the 8th highest paid kicker in the league, and the punter has a 3-year deal. Everybody else, 1 year, 2 year. So you're not going to keep a Justin Reed. Which for him is good. Like, go someplace where they know football and they're trying to win, because that's not what's happening here. And I'm not convinced. And because it starts at the top, so I don't think that at the top, when you talk at the top, you're talking Cal McNair, that he's got a clue of what's happening, right? I just think he's let Jack and run away with the team, and I don't understand what is Jack doing on the sideline with the little clipboard during the games. What is Nick doing in the booth? What is really happening?
What's interesting is remember when Ray Farmer with Cleveland texted down to the sidelines? He got suspended and ultimately lost his job. You've got Nick Caserio where he is. You've got Jack Easterby where he is. And the league hadn't said a word. I'll just leave that there.
Yeah. The league hadn't said a word.
Now, if I find out that the Jack Easterby photo was photoshopped and he wasn't down there, but now, mind you, saw him with my own eyes, but that'd be one thing. But they haven't said a word. Ray Farmer got suspended and ultimately lost his job for a text message.
For a text message.
For a text message down to the sidelines.
Wow. Yeah. So Tony says all the good teams in the NFC, it's going to be tough in the playoffs. That's true. Luckily, for the Texans, AFC South is a dumpster. Yeah, it's lucky for them, but it doesn't matter, Tony. They're not going anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Who they going to beat?
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
they may not even beat the Jaguars the second time around.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Let's.
Right.
What are their when the season started? I looked at where their possible wins were. One of them was a Colts game, which they clearly didn't win. They got the Jaguars game. I did say that that was when they needed to win, and maybe the second Jaguars game. But now that they've got a taste of winning, maybe not. They play the Dolphins, so perhaps, but that's on the road since they can't seem to play. They can't seem to win on the road. Not just not win on the road. Cully said something yesterday that how they play so differently on the road,
Hmm.
and he's not really sure what it is, but they have more mistakes and turnovers and penalties. It's not the crowd noise, is what he
Right.
said, but it's
Hmm.
just the road. Well, what is that?
Yeah. 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 I don't know. That's maturity.
Mm,
That's, that's some of that is preparation. I mean, what are
yeah,
they doing with crowd noise examples during practice? But again, all of that's supposedly the Patriot way. So
right. Well, he said it's
those,
not crowd noise. It's not the crowd noise.
yeah. So,
I don't know what it
again,
is.
situational coaching, I don't either. But all of that supposedly is stuff that they learned in Foxborough, New
In
England.
Foxborough. All right, one
Yeah.
last thing. I know you got to get out and get ready for your show. Have you had a chance to look at these young Rockets yet, and your thoughts about this Rockets team, this young Rockets team, as they get ready to open the season this week?
I'm unlike most. I like it. I like the rebuild. That's why I don't want to bring in Ben Simmons. I don't want to
Ugh.
bring in Kyrie Irving.
Oh,
Leave all
please
that
no.
alone. Leave all that
Please no.
alone. If
Please
if
no.
you are rebuilding, if you're going young, then do that. Let's go through the growing pains. Kevin Porter Jr. Let him do his thing. Green, let him do his thing. Again, I like this young Rockets nucleus. I feel
Yeah.
like these guys can grow up together. I think,
Yeah.
I don't like to do the parallel between college and the pros, but this could be the Rockets version of the Fab Five. I really believe that. And I hope that Fertitta, Fertitta gives the young team and his young coach a chance to grow up together because they're going to be a problem. Get your wins
Yeah.
on them now because in about a year or two, you ain't going to be
Right.
able to get a lot of wins off of them.
I think you're right. I think also I hope that he also lets Rafael Stone stay.
Yeah, yeah, I do
I
too.
like so far what we've seen from Rafael.
Yeah,
And if you're gonna bring in a Kyrie or which please don't do that, or a
please,
Ben Simmons, please don't do
please.
that. You may as well just let John Wall play, right?
Right,
Because you know
exactly.
his attitude. He's don't do any of that. Let these
Yeah,
guys, like you say, grow up together. It's
yeah.
a rebuild. They're going to be fun to watch.
Hmm.
And I think you've got the right nucleus with the coaching staff, with Silas and Lucas and that group that can bring these guys up because they're dealing with them on and off the court. And that's going to be super important for their development.
Right, right. I'm not expecting more than 25, 28 wins this year, but that's
Right.
okay. That's
That's
okay
okay.
because that'll put them in a good spot for another, top round draft choice. Only thing I'm a little bit concerned about is on the defensive side, but again, they're
Yeah.
young. They're young.
Yeah.
They're going to make mental mistakes. They're going to be out of position a little bit. As long as they get the fundamentals and the concepts down, man, I'm telling you, it's going to be go time real soon. And
Right.
young guys
Right.
are going to be ready to go. So.
So tell us, AJ, where they can find you today and every day, the lunch break on KYOK from 12 to 2. How can they follow you?
Yeah, at Lunch Break KYLK on Facebook, at Lunch Break KYLK on Twitter, and at Lunch Break KYLK on Twitch. We're now on there. And then on YouTube, it's The Lunch Break with AJ Jones. I'm on Monday through Friday from 12 to 2 on the legendary KYLK. That signal's been in this market since the 60s. And I'm honored to be a part of that radio station family. So, hey, tune in. Let's have a little fun. It's Talk Your Team Tuesday, Kim. Talk Your Team
Oh,
Tuesday.
Talk Your Team Tuesday.
Yeah.
And so Tony had a question. He said, is Pep Hamilton locked in on a multi-year contract? Tony, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
I don't know if anybody's locked in on multi-year deals with this team,
Right.
to be honest, other than Nick Casario and Jack Easterby. So
Yeah.
that's a really good question. AJ, thank you for taking time this morning. I appreciate you. I will talk to you soon. Have a great show. I'll catch you as I'm headed back from a little press conference I got to run and cover. So thank you,
All
my
right.
friend.
Thank you, Kim. Thanks for having me.
All right, always. AJ Jones. The lunch break. Make sure you check him out. He's got good stuff every day. Thank you, AJ. And as I said, Tony, I'm not sure about Pep's contract. I don't know if he does or not. That's a really good question. I'll see what I can find out. But listen, so much happening. Let's go Astros. I'm going to say that, right? Let's hope that tonight Zach Greinke can get off to a good start, a solid start, and at least give this Astros team a fighting chance, the offense, to do what they do. And for those of you who managed to catch me earlier today, I changed the time. I think we may go back to 10 a.m. on a permanent basis. I need to get to a press conference, and so which is why I changed the time on that. So thank you guys that were able to get here live. If you're watching the replay, make sure that you still send me your questions and comments, and I will also respond to them. And let me hear from you. Tony says Stros win tonight. Get out the second inning. If they can get out of the second inning, Tony, right? Like, just can they just get to the third and still have a shot? So have a great week, everybody. As always, remember, we are still in a pandemic. So make sure that you are careful, that you're wearing your mask when you go places. Make sure that you also, if you've not gotten the vaccine, get vaccinated. Talk to people that have real information about it. And now, I make no judgment about what you're doing. I'm just encouraging you to get vaccinated and make smart choices. Practice social distancing, and just do the right thing, right? Make sure that you're registered to vote. If you're in Houston, Texas, there's an election underway. Early voting has started. It's for school board and I think HCC board of trustees. Every position counts, so make sure that you vote wherever you are. For those of you up in Virginia, I mean, there's elections around the country. Make sure that you vote. I'm always going to encourage you to vote. And remember, do something kind for yourself and do something kind for somebody else. As always, make it a great week. I'll see you next Tuesday on, I keep wanting to say Beyond the Headlines. What's that about? That's the show I used to host at Channel 2. Right here on Chalk Talk. Follow me online. Wherever you see me now, I'll bring you updates about what's happening with the Astros, Texans, Rockets, and anything else that's super important. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for being a part of the tribe.